Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Farsi Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It's wonderful to have you along for the ride. When it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday, I believe we were lied to. And it's funny, whenever I say this phrase, I remember a huge argument I witnessed between using the word lying and using the word smell test. You know, the phrase smell test. And it's like, you should say smell test because that means, you can't say they're lying because then you can get sued. This is like an actual conversation in a radio station I worked at. And I was witness to the conversation. It's like, you can't say lying. And I'm like, unless you really know they're lying. I know they're lying. And yesterday, Nick Sirianni bold-faced lie about what the Eagles' identity is. I'm going to give you the full context of it. Can you tell me right now? Think about it. What is the Eagles' identity? I mean, here's one thing I've learned from the 2022 Eagles. I learned from the 2024 Eagles. Their identity is they win. That's what I learned from the Philadelphia. They win. That's their identity. They're winners. They're not losers. They're winners. Damn it. And that's really, truly the only identity I actually care about. But last year, it's undeniable that if you had to say an identity of this team, it was they were a running team. I mean, one thing that I do find interesting is that last year we never referred to them as a ground and pound team, despite the fact that their defense was amazing. And then when the obvious run game was shut down in the postseason, Jalen Hurts was able to air the ball out. They're a pretty damn good chameleon when they really needed to be, but still, no denying the fact that they were absolutely a running football team. This year, the defense is great. Really, ever since the Jalen Phillips deal, the defense has been fantastic. Jordan Phillips deal, excuse me. Jalen Phillips, jeez. What is the identity of this football team right now? What has it been all season long? Eke out victories? You can't even say that their identity is the fact that they're the defending Super Bowl champions because they don't even want to be known as the defending Super Bowl champions, as Jordan Mailata pointed out in training camp, and Jordan Mailata we'll hear from today. So just think about it. Rack your brain for a second. What is this Eagles' identity? Because yesterday, Nick Sirianni kind of beat around the bush as to what their identity is, alluding to the fact that they had an identity and they knew what it was. And then Jeff McClain pressed him on it and said, oh, you the way the question was asked is like, oh, that's adorable. Do you think you have an identity? What is it? Yeah, I think I know what the identity is. We'll let you hear from Nick Sirianni. Then locker room yesterday as the Eagles prepare for the San Francisco 49ers. The locker room seemed like it had great vibes about them. Everyone's really happy that they rested. Jalen Hurts was the only one that you could absolutely tell. I'm not going to say he was pissed off or, dramatic about it, but yeah, he wanted to play. Good for him. They should have played. But anyway, all good vibes in the locker room. Everyone talking about how fresh they are. Cam Jurgens, this is a funny thing. Cam Jurgens got tired of all the rest questions. He also said, as I said yesterday, Drew Kendall played a hell of a game there against the Commanders. But they all seemed like they were in phenomenal spirits. Yes, it looked like they were able to take a downbeat, or at least a beat, rather, in week 18 when the starters were sitting out. But Cam Jurgens was asked yesterday simply about the idea of getting Lane Johnson back. And whenever Cam Jurgens was asked about it, whenever Jalen Hurts was asked about it, Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo, and Jordan Mailata, it was like a late Christmas present being put under the tree. That's what it was like. Oh, wait, there's just one more. I really look forward to seeing what this football team do. We know the numbers when it comes to Lane Johnson and the games he missed. We know the effect, I should say, and they are drastic. Games Lane Johnson has played in, games Lane Johnson has not played in, heavily in favor by a huge majority how well the Eagles play and how much they win with Lane versus without. So use them. How is this offensive coordinator? How is Nick Sirianni? How is he going to use Lane Johnson? And it's not even just the fact that it's not like they're going to have Lane Johnson, running up field or anything like that, blocking on screens. But, okay, you have him there. Are you going to run more to that side of the line of scrimmage? Are you going to have Jalen Hurts roll out to that side more, knowing that it's going to be held down, protected, and somebody is there that you could trust? Use them. I don't want to see the same. I've said before, when they get Lane Johnson back, it's not just that Lane Johnson's going to be there, being his Hall of Fame self. It's also going to be the fact that you could go back to having those max protection formations that you really started to see in the Minnesota Vikings game. And then, unfortunately, that went away. So you get to see that again. And they had a lot of success with that, so I'd like to see that again. The other part of this is Jordan Mailata had one of the funniest lines all season. Already the funniest line of the postseason, certainly. But he shaded Bryce Huff in a way that was just beautiful. Like, it was just perfect. He got asked about Bryce Huff, and he answered the question about Bryce Huff. Also, 76ers, hey, how about this? They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They beat up on the Washington Wizards last night. And after the game, a big trade in the NBA went down. Sham Sharani at ESPN put it out there almost right after tip-off, or excuse me, right after the final buzzer sounded at the Xfinity Mobile Arena, that the Washington Wizards, the team that the Sixers just beat 131-110, had made a trade with the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young goes to Washington in a deal centered around Young, CJ McCollum, and Corey Kispert. The next time the Sixers play the Washington Wizards will be April 1st. No joke. That's the next time they play the Wizards, and likely facing a Trae Young Washington Wizards team. Keep going, Wizards. Keep going. I saw the thing about why would Trae Young want to go to the Wizards? And I'm like, well, I understand on the surface that's a pretty good question. You can get numbers, and you can be the star, and you won't have to share anything with what, Jalen Johnson, is that his name? Yeah, down there in Atlanta. Yeah, it's all you, man. It's going to be all you in Washington. So, all right, there we are. How about that? So let's get into it all. Let's start it off with Nick Sirianni, because I don't know if you guys racked your brains. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at an early look at the comment section here. I'm going to see if anyone's answered the question about identity. Let's see here. I'm just looking for the identity questions here. Identity questions. Sean Gillespie, this is a good one. Identity this year, super defense with a dumb offense. Okay, that's good. Identity is they don't have an identity. Love it. Okay, that's what I got so far. So here's full context. The question, it's important. I will tell you the question. The question from Jeff McClain is about how do you balance what you game plan for versus how you react in a game. So the plan going into it, and then, oh, no, this isn't working. Now what do we do? How do you balance that? And this is where Nick Sirianni took it. Later in the answer, you're going to hear Jeff McClain's follow-up about, oh, so you think you found an identity, basically? Here it is.
When you're game planning offensively, how much of it and how do you balance it doing what you want to do versus being reactive to what you're seeing defensively? What have you found works better?
Yeah, you have to have an identity of what you want to do. I think it starts with that, is having an identity, but that's also, there's a fine line there too. Is like, hey, I want to run this because this is part of our identity. Well, you might have to do some different things to get out of some, hey, okay, well, maybe we don't run it versus this, or maybe we don't run it versus that, because you're setting yourself up and you're not for a bad play potentially. But I think it always starts with an identity. I think the best teams are always going to have an identity that they rest on, and that's what we've been trying to continue to accomplish throughout this year. And we know we know a lot of the things that we're good at and that we want to continue to try to press. But they're watching tape too, and they're gonna have answers for that. And so there are things that you can call and run, and there's some things that part of your identity that you call on your terms, and you have both of those things as you going through.
Do you think you found the identity?
I do. I do. I think we are continuing to get better through that, and I think that it's shown in these last some of these last games. And obviously, yeah, Buffalo, we had a bad half. Where we didn't we didn't do a good enough job at coaching. We didn't do a good enough job playing. But yeah, I think we have.
Did anybody get what the identity is in all that? I think the thing that jumps out to me is that he goes on to talk about what the identity is and doesn't really get into it at all. Not a hint. Not even like, I love to run the football. We love to run the football. We love the fact that we got a great defense. Like, even things that would hint at what he's talking about. I don't think that revolves too much around scheme. I mean, other teams already are looking at you. You even acknowledged in that answer that other teams are watching film too. One of the questions that has just been on repeat since week 1 of this season is, what is the Eagles' identity? And I'm going to let you know something. Even then, I hate the question about identity. Like, okay, so if you're a running team and then have to win in the Super Bowl by throwing, did you then betray your identity? Like, what are we, But what is your bread and butter? What are the things that you can constantly go back to as the way you want to win football games? Every team's got to make a decision, whether it's for the season or it's game by game, that, okay, this is the best way we could beat this team. One of the things that always got left out last year was that the Eagles in the first quarter were terrible. Like, fewest points in the league, like first quarter points and all that last year. If not the lowest, one of the lowest. So the point I was making all throughout last year is like, okay, so hold on a second. Your players are just great. That's really what it comes down to. You might be great at adjusting in game, and that's great. That is a great quality. But never does a coach have his fingerprints on a game and the result of what's happening in a game. Never do they have their fingerprints on that more so than in the first quarter, where the whole thing you're game planning for, you're preparing for, doesn't work. So you go through the entire week and you're going, I know what's going to crack the guy. I know how to beat that defense. And then you go out there and you're like, nope, this isn't going to work. All right. Hey guys, be great. Jalen, do your thing. Saquon Barkley, run for 150 yards. This is easy. What's the bread and butter this year that you can constantly go back to and say, okay, the game plan didn't work. What are we doing? Because there hasn't been a lot of bread nor butter to anything this Eagles offense has done. And ever since the Jalen Phillips deal, you've seen this Eagles defense go to the next level. Jordan Mailata was asked about something that changed over the last month of the season. Now, what this involves is Nick Sirianni taking over more responsibility with the offense. It was acknowledged, as a matter of fact, yesterday with Jalen Hurts taken to the podium yesterday at the NovaCare Complex. And he talked about Nick being more involved, Nick really changing his own identity, really, as he has gone on as the head coach of this football team, formerly a play caller, formerly a guy that would be all in on the game plan. Now he's back in on the game plan after getting away from the game plan and being asked to do different things in his head coaching tenure. So now Jalen Hurts acknowledged that yesterday, also acknowledged his own involvement, Nick Sirianni's involvement, growing when it came to preparing for these games as an offense. Jordan Mailata acknowledged it yesterday when he talked about the different formations he has seen over the last month. Here's Jordan Mailata yesterday breaking that down.
I mean, formations, dressing up formations, more understanding stuff, and then just executing in the play action as well. So,
is there anything health?
That's all. That seems like very basic stuff. But what the lead into that was differences that they have made offensively that make them feel as if they can go into the postseason and put up points. Like, what gives you confidence? What you can hang your hat on was the question by the Inquirer's Jeff Nyberg. What can you hang your hat on? And that's what they can hang their hat on. Things that Nick Sirianni has brought back into this offense after apparently Kevin Petula is like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that anymore. If that's part of the identity, that's still not a great identity. But if that's what makes you feel like you can go out there and put up points, then all right, more power to you. And you're talking about, he goes on to talk about the Raiders game. He goes on to talk about the Commanders. He goes on to talk about, Buffalo, we struggled, but we moved the ball well in that first half, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, so your identity is that you beat up on terrible teams? Your identity is that you figured it out against the Raiders? Did you crack the code against the Commanders when the starters played in your first meeting? That's the identity? Because that's not an identity that really sounds like it's going to push you through the postseason into another Super Bowl appearance, at least. It sounds like, all right, in case of emergency, break glass. That's what it sounds like. So, as I've said really throughout this week, and you can't really rely much on weather. It's supposed to be like 49 degrees or something like that on game day at Lincoln Financial Field. Getting colder as the day went on. Remember, the Rams came out here last year, and it was a snowy game. Let's not forget. So, weather won't be exactly all to your advantage here. It actually probably feel like San Francisco or Santa Clara where the 49ers play. But the 49ers, make no mistake about it, are not a bad football team. And even if you look at the injuries they have on defense, they got a defensive coordinator that knows how to organize what he's got. Offensively, I saw that people are focusing on the Nick Sirianni versus Kyle Shanahan matchup. No. I'm not even in the same stratosphere for me. People looking at the Vic Fangio versus Kyle Shanahan matchup. Yeah, that's a real interesting one. I even said yesterday, this is two mad scientists in their respective labs meeting to see who out-schemed the other. That's exciting. Like, that's something I want to watch. What flat out terrifies me is Robert Saleh and his defense going up against Kevin Patullo. Because somehow, despite a ridiculous amount of talent on the offensive side of the football, they've put up duds this year. Going under center more? You're going to need a little bit more than that to go under. Robert Saleh's not going to look at Jalen Hurts under center and be like, oh my God, I have no idea why didn't I prepare for this? A quarterback under center? Oh, he's in the pistol? Oh my God. You're going to have to run misdirection here. You're going to have to get the 49ers off balance. You're going to have to spread it out against them. Yes, I understand that they are missing talent. Fred Warner being the number one guy. But that's still a pretty damn good defense as it's organized by Robert Saleh. So, look, of all the matchups that might be intriguing and all that, the one that just flat out terrifies me is Kevin Patullo going up against a guy who has played Jalen Hurts before, a guy who has experience as a defensive coordinator, and a guy that certainly knows how to organize his talent on his side of the football, regardless of who he's missing. Have I mentioned I wanted the starters to play last week? So you'd play the Packers, and also you would have another week of maybe the offense feeling better about themselves going into the postseason. Quarterback certainly seemed like he wanted to play. Okay. By the way, Jalen said the last thing Jalen said about not playing was when he's playing, he never hopes. He never has to hope because he has the opportunity to go out there and do. When he's not playing, that's all you can do. When he's not playing and told he's not going to be playing, so that just made me think, was there a point in that game where Jalen said, hey, do you want me to go in here? Because you see the Lions are winning, right? No, you want me to stay here? Okay. When he's not playing, he hopes that the Eagles will win a football game. He hopes, Tanner McKee will throw 2 touchdown passes or whatever and help the Eagles put the Commanders to bed, that kind of thing. But when he is playing, he never hopes. The unfortunate thing for a lot of Eagles fans this year isolated, is that they have hoped, because guess what? They're not playing either. They've hoped that Kevin Patullo's figured it out. They've hoped that the offense has figured it out. They hope that the offensive line has figured it out. They hope that Lane Johnson coming back is the shot in the arm that this offensive line needed. They hope that Nick Sirianni was right about resting the starters in Week 18, and Cam Jurgens coming back saying he feels fresh. Landon Dickerson getting that time off. Tyler Steen getting that time off. You hope they come back here and they feel rejuvenated and ready to just bowl over guys in the first round of the playoffs here. Yeah, I'd love to see it, but I haven't seen anything this season that has made me go, oh, they've got it now. They've figured it out. They've hit their stride. The last time you saw this offense on the football field trying to do anything, they did nothing. That's not a great feeling going into the postseason. The last time you saw this Eagles offense on the field trying to do anything, they did nothing. It was rainy. This is a professional football team, damn it. A defending Super Bowl champion, whether they like it or not. All right. Now for some levity. Jordan Mailata yesterday. There are a few instances that I will actually laugh out loud throughout a season at what's said in the locker room. And Jordan Mailata got asked about going up against former Philadelphia Eagle Bryce Huff in this game. Wild card round of the playoffs. Here is Jordan Mailata on facing his former teammate.
Do you expect Bryce Huff to be pretty juiced up for this game?
100%. Can't wait to see Super Bowl champ Bryce Huff. What are we talking about? Guys, it's a teammate.
Do you expect Bryce Huff to be pretty juiced up for this game?
100%. Can't wait to see Super Bowl champ Bryce Huff. What are we talking about? Guys, it's a teammate.
Throwing shade, Jordan Mailata. Throwing shade all about. He ain't wrong. You are talking about, and I mentioned these numbers before, but you are talking about the fewest sacks in the NFL by any team. 20 is what the 49ers have had this year. That's amazing. Amazingly terrible. The second lowest quarterback pressure rate in the NFL. But I will say this. Bryce Huff is tied for the team lead in sacks with 14. Oh, geez, did I say 14? 4. Good Lord. 4. Now, here's one little thing as to why I even said this before Mailata said it, but in the 2023 game, I think it was week 6 when they played Robert Saleh's Jets in North Jersey and they lost that game. I remember Bryce Huff had 2 sacks in that game. One of them was on Jack Driscoll. The other was kind of on Jordan Mailata. The way the play unfolded, Jalen Hurts steps to the line of scrimmage. To his left is Bryce Huff, and he's lined up on Mailata. And Hurts steps up into the pocket, starts rolling to his left. Mailata did his job of riding the pass rush down past the quarterback, and then Bryce Huff got free and came up and got Jalen Hurts for the sack. But more importantly, I did go back and I was like, I don't remember Bryce Huff even getting into the Super Bowl. He did not. He didn't even play a snap. And yet...
Do you expect Bryce Huff to be pretty juiced up for this game?
100%. Can't wait to see Super Bowl champ Bryce Huff. What are we talking about?
Oh, I love it. And the only thing I love about it is that Bryce Huff is not going to break out in this game. I'm not worried about Bryce Huff. Not worried at all. Here's a little teaser for you. For those that enjoy Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn, and myself bringing you the pregame show on Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. For those that enjoy that, I can guarantee you that will be in Say What in this week's edition. So I look forward to that. Going to focus on some of the things Jalen Hurts got into yesterday at the podium that raised my eyebrows a wee bit. There was a question by Zach Berman of The Athletic about what makes you rise to the occasion in big games. And Jalen paused for a second, and it's a real short clip. So I don't want to play it, but Jalen gets asked the question, what makes you rise to the occasion? And all he said was, and this is cold-blooded, man, in the best way. Sometimes it's just in you. Like, basically, you're born with it. And I went, okay. All right. Everything Jalen talked about yesterday, for whatever words are worth by a quarterback who is leading an offense that has struggled this year, if you could be put in a better mood or given even the tiniest ounce of confidence based on just a quarterback's attitude and the way they handle questions, would you rather a quarterback be like, yeah, hopefully we figure it out in this game, or would you rather a quarterback be like, we got this? Like, here's where lying to me, I don't care. Like, please, yes, lie to me. Give me all the warm and fuzzies going into this game as humanly possible, as many as humanly possible. And if there is a reason to have confidence in this offense, aside from just words, I don't think Saquon Barkley is some terrible running back now. I don't think A.J. Brown's lost a step. I don't think Devontae Smith desperately needed to get 1,000 yards on the season. I think his coach wanted them to get 1,000 yards on the season. Oh, and surprisingly, a football player wanted to play football. So good for him. At least he might be riding a little bit of a high on an offensive note going into the postseason. And Dallas Goedert, by the way, I think he has to be a star of the show going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Because Robert Saleh is going to attempt to get after the quarterback. And if that's going to be the case, then I absolutely want to see Dallas Goedert running short routes. I want to see Saquon Barkley staying close to the line of scrimmage. And I want to see, if you have to do it, little dinks and dunks down the field. Hey, you got a 30-yard pass to A.J. Brown down the sideline. You want to drop it in the breadbasket, Jalen? Go for it if it's there. You got Devontae Smith on a go route? By all means, let's party. But this offense is so much better when you see Saquon Barkley get some receptions and you see Dallas Goedert getting his over the middle of the field. Oh, Jalen can never throw over the middle of the field. Well, when he does it, he's pretty damn good. So maybe do that, especially if you're not going to have Fred Warner running down anybody. Let's see that play out. I want to see that. If Nick Sirianni is having any influence on what the offense is doing, which has been confirmed many times over that he has over the last month of the season, then that's something that I would expect him to want to do. Because if you go back to last year, and I know it was Kellen Moore calling plays and all that, but I've talked about this a number of times throughout the season. That rub route, you want to talk about plays that are bread and butter plays for the offense? Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert have that down to a science where they can basically run that blindfolded. They had it down to a science last year. I haven't seen one play like that. You see the Washington Commanders with their running backs run that F under route. What, you can't do that with Saquon? Hey, wheel routes are great and all. I'd like to see those too, but that seems like that's a shot in the dark. That would be essentially a prayer to see that one come back. Just little routes like that for your running back, where he's not just going into the flat, he's going into the middle of the field, and he can get you the football there and beat somebody, break a tackle, get a block, and get you some yards. Little things that you haven't done all season that can help this offense that are basic football plays. I'm not expecting this game for Nick Sirianni or Kevin Patullo to turn into a Ben Johnson. I'm not looking for them to turn into a Kyle Shanahan even in a game like this. But you've done things well in the past. Do them again. I think at this point in the season, the playoffs, other teams are kind of understanding what you are and defending against it. And Robert Saleh is no slouch. He's no dummy. He's going to be doing that. But the deviations from things that you've done throughout the season is what could crack the code in the postseason. And that's not to be as optimistic as some people where you're going with the argument of, maybe they're just saving it for the playoffs. What? At what point? Really, the playoffs? You had an opportunity to beat the Bills. No creativity. The quarterback at some points in the game was seeing ghosts. And rightfully so, because there was nobody open most of the time. The one play that he did have to make, he just wanted to get away from any pressure he thought was coming. Ended up rolling into it. Meanwhile, Kevin Patullo's got 3 wide receivers in the same exact spot. Yeah, now would be a good time to get that offense rolling in the right direction. Some other things Jalen got into, and this is a worrisome thing, and I know it's really all that matters, but when he was asked about identity, a clear identity, He was just talking about whatever it takes to win. And you know what? If that's how they're going to live and die, Jalen's had a lot of success doing that, certainly. He also, like I said, acknowledged that they have had Nick more involved in the offense. It's been more of a collaborative effort, including input from Jalen Hurts, as it should be when you have a franchise Super Bowl MVP quarterback. And also just continuing to evolve as an offense. All right. Waiting for the offense to evolve with wings so they can really take off in the postseason and give us something to get excited about again. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe another parade. Maybe another parade. Hey, your Philadelphia 76ers, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, how dare I? Lane Johnson back in practice. I think I mentioned that earlier. Nakobe Dean flat out said in his locker yesterday that he'll be playing in this game, so I look forward to that. Cam Jurgens talked about defending against the games that they run, the 49ers run, so just being ready for that, take on their defensive line. He said he knew at the time, Nakobe Dean said he knew at the time that he felt something in his hamstring. He could have kept going, but they had the game in hand, so he shut it down. Wise decision. Anyone who's ever had a little tweak in the hammy playing, I don't know, even a beer league softball game, not at all speaking from experience, and you go, oh, it's fine. And then you like just try to run for a fly ball, and it's like, okay, it's gone. My hamstring is no longer there. So yes, always a good idea to not push it. But Lane Johnson, Nakobe Dean, back at practice. Cam Jurgens had one great line yesterday, and this was about confidence as well. One of the reporters asked him about, hey, how do you get anything out of what you guys have done this season and build confidence going to the post? Hey, forget the past, man. Forget the past, man. Nobody goes into a fight scared. And I was like, all right, way to go there, Cam Jurgens. By the way, if I haven't said this already, his beef jerky is fantastic. You're welcome. Your Philadelphia 76ers. I know, okay, it's the Wizards, but I don't want to hear that after they just lost to a Denver Nuggets team that played nobody. Okay. So last night, 7:00 tip-off, they take on the Washington Wizards. There was one little scare there in the second quarter where the Wizards went on a 10-0 run. They call timeout. Sixers come back, controlled from that point on. They won 131-110. It was the first time that this version of the Big Three, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, all scored at least 20 points in the game. Maxey actually had the lowest with 22. Paul George, who had it going last night from the floor, he had 23. Joel Embiid had 28. VJ Edgecombe stuffed the stat sheet. He did have a tough night scoring, though, unfortunately. 13 points on 13 shots. He was 4 of 13 from the floor last night. Not great. Not ideal for VJ Edgecombe. But as I mentioned, did stuff the stat sheet rather well last night. 6 rebounds, 7 assists is what he ended up with in last night's game. 4 of 13 shooting was the total there. Maxey 4 for 10 from beyond the arc last night. That's the way that one went. Yes, Kelly Oubre checked into the game, played 20 minutes, got 2 points. Okay. And Trendon Watford played 5 minutes last night. So there we go. Help on the way for the 76ers. Now another test. The tests are just going to keep on coming for the Sixers. Sure, it was nice to finish that road trip with 3 straight wins. Sure, it was nice for the last win to be the win over the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, where the Sixers have now won 2 in a row. Oh, my goodness. Now, here's what they got coming up. The Orlando Magic, who have a very similar record. They're 21-17 compared to the Sixers 20-15 on the season. But they got tomorrow night in Orlando. They take on the Orlando Magic. Then this is where things just get a little weird. They got Toronto for back-to-backs Sunday and Monday. All right, that's in Toronto. 6:00 tip-off. Then 7:30 tip-off on Sunday and Monday. Then Wednesday, they got a back-to-back at home versus Cleveland, Wednesday and Friday. So those are 4, essentially. 2 opponents, 4 games against them, including the Orlando Magic, 5 games against tough opponents. Indiana Monday, Phoenix Tuesday, Houston Thursday, Knicks again, this one at home on ABC. Saturday, January 24th at 3:00. That's a tough run there for the Sixers for the majority of the month middle weeks, I should say, of the month of January. That's a bit of a tough one. Okay, it's a bit of a tough one. VJ Edgecombe did get it going late, despite the poor shooting early. And as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't seen it yet, Trae Young did get traded last night to the Wizards from Atlanta. CJ McCollum, Corey Kispert, going from DC to the ATL. So that's the way that one works. Hey, let me tell you about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's phlsportsnation.com. How about the Game Time app? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARS to get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. How about Sky Motor Cars? Check out Brett's amazing inventory at skymotorcars.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how wonderful people are doing. What's going on here? Sean Gillespie, hello. Natalie, good morning. Philly Magic, good morning. Oh, by the way, hey, everybody. By the way, hey. Wings tickets. Tomorrow night, Philadelphia Wings, face off, 7 o'clock, face off time. I know you'll enjoy the PA announcer. Go to wingslax.com. You're welcome. Jason A., hello, good morning. 42-10, Birds make Purdy cry and prove again Shanahan is a great mind who will never get a chip. Philly Magic, I love that. Let's do it. Wayne Miller, good morning, everyone. Football Knuckleheads, good morning. April, morning, April. Identity this year, super defense with the dumb offense. I read these. These are great. Cousin. Despite the circumstances, it was great to see your dad the other day. As much as I want another chip, by the way, I'm going to mention something personal at the end of this. As much as I want another chip, I don't know if I can do another year of KP calling plays. So here's the bar. If the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, and I know this is too high a bar for a lot of people, but I think if the Eagles don't win or get to the Super Bowl, and the offense doesn't look good throughout the postseason, and these are all defensive wins with the offense just barely doing enough, then KP's gone. But I don't see this as the Eagles taking it all out on Kevin Patullo. And here's the thing that will enrage me, that you got the possibility of a Brian Dable. You might have the possibility of a Mike Kafka. You might have basically just anybody that you think. Cliff Kingsbury, I know a lot of people have brought up. I don't think he's leaving the Commanders to be a offensive coordinator. I think he's leaving to be a head coach. If that's college again, if that's in the NFL, I don't know. But if you go through this batch of offensive coordinators that are available this offseason, and with, by the way, John Harbaugh putting off interviews for, I think, another week, this could drag on. If you're doing that and other offensive coordinators become available and Kevin Patullo is the guy still here, I'll use the word again, malpractice, okay? But yeah, I think the offense has to come alive in the postseason to save his job. And obviously, I still don't think a lot of people think it'll come alive in the offseason. And in the postseason. And I don't think anyone wants Kevin Patullo back. But then there's the double-edged sword of maybe they did figure it out in the playoffs. Stoutland has to prepare for Lane's eventual retirement. Yes, he does. Trae Young to Washington. That's right. Can we see your identity card? What are they called in the airport? Real ID? Can you give me your real ID? Ground and pound team, huh? Okay, let's see about that. KP sucking is our identity. That's great. Sean Gillespie reacted Trae Young to the Wizards. Philadelphia Eagles defense last 2 seasons under Vic Fangio. First in opponent points per game, 18.3. First in defensive efficiency, 68. First in net yards per attempt, 5.7. Pretty damn good. I didn't know the numbers were this bad. Wow. Sean Kilrain, look at this. Kyle Shanahan faced Vic Fangio 4 times. Shanahan's offense in those games scored 11 points, 6 points, 15 points, 9 points. That sounds like not a lot of points. Now the Eagles just have to score 12 points, 7 points, 16 points, or 10 points. and they can win this football game. Sirianni will be competing with the Niners cheerleaders. Sean Gillespie, that's a good line. Good morning, Chio. What's poppin'? Chico, Scusi, Chico. Speakeasy talking about the Cowboys and how they're dangerous. Like, are they not at home? The Cowboys. What are we? Huh? What's happening? Jay, what's going on? Love the show. Farzy, great Locked On show. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you. Go Birds, go Birds. Yeah, Locked On Eagles Squad show. Me, Jason Martinez, Harry Mays yesterday on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Make sure you guys check that out. Got her big time in the playoffs. Hell yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is more along the lines of where I'm thinking here. 17-13 Eagles. Dallas got her going to have a big day. Jason A., if we win the Super Bowl again this year, does that make Hurts Sirianni era a dynasty? No. I don't know. I thought it was the unwritten rule of 3 and 4 years is a dynasty. Like back to back is back to back, but it's not a dynasty. You know? Don't get me wrong. Please give me back to back. Give me a shot at a dynasty. That's what I asked for. Even last year, people were like, the Eagles have a chance at a dynasty. Yeah, they got a boatload of talent inked up for years. Okay. Yeah, they got a shot. But before I use the word dynasty, win 2 in a row. Please and thank you. Hey, some personal news here. And everything's good. Okay. It's a sad time for my family, but we lost my Uncle John recently. I'll just say recently. And he was my dad's brother, and my dad had 4 brothers, and he was the second oldest Uncle John. When my dad lost his parents at a very young age, he moved in with my Uncle John. So Uncle John was just a really important figure in my father's life, very important figure in my father's life, important figure in my life. But throughout my life, having the last name Farzetta, there's not a lot of Farzettas out there. Okay. So if there's another Farzetta, you're related. So people would always ask me, especially if I was an Ambler, where I'm originally from, I'd go back and still go back now. People would say, wait, you're a Farzetta? And I'd say, yeah. And they go, is your dad John? And I'm like, no, my dad's Joe. And then they would go, let me tell you about your Uncle John. And they would all tell me the same exact story about my Uncle John. When he went to Ambler High School, okay, way back in the day, they would tell me this story about how my Uncle John, playing for the Ambler High School football team, kicked a game-winning field goal to beat Springfield on Thanksgiving Day. And my cousin in the chat here, Tommy, his father, also Tom, was a little kid at the time, and my Uncle John actually picked him up, put him on his shoulder, and carried him off the field. Like, how cool is that to go up to your big cousin and he puts you on your shoulder and he carries you off the field after you just kicked the game-winning field goal, right? How cool is that? So throughout my life, people always have brought up this story about my Uncle John kicking the field goal. And one of the things that I always appreciated was every time somebody tells me the story, like the first time I heard the story, like, your Uncle John, he kicked a 15-yard field goal in high school to beat Springfield. Like, he game-winning field goal, right? And then I'll hear it, a year later from somebody else. He kicked a 20-yard field goal. He kicked a 23-yard field goal. He kicked a 27-yard field goal in high school. He kicked a 33-yard high school field goal. And it just always went up. And one of my favorite things about this was my brother got in a minor traffic accident when he was in high school. And the judge, I won't say his name, says to the cop, he goes, you don't have your witness here? And the cop's like, no. And he's just like, okay, not guilty. Boom. It was a 30-second trial, if you will. So we're walking out of the courtroom, me and my mom, my dad, and my brother. And my brother's like elated that nothing happened. And nobody got hurt. And the judge says, Farzetta, Ambler? And my dad turns around and goes, yeah. And he goes, come here. And he calls me and my brother up to the bench. And he goes, let me tell you a story about your Uncle John. He kicked a 34-yard field goal to beat Springfield in like 1959 on Thanksgiving Day. Now, just know that your uncle's a good guy. So on top of his football prowess, right, he's just a guy my family will miss deeply. But yeah, an Ambler football hero, John Meat Farzetta, as his nickname was affectionately known as Meat. And Frank Rocco, who runs a site on Facebook, So You Grew Up an Ambler, a page on Facebook, So You Grew Up an Ambler, shouted out my Uncle John for that field goal when he passed away this week. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. I'll be back with you guys later on today for Locked On 76ers. Me and Keith Pompey will be breaking it all down and more. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. I'll see you guys later on today for Locked On 76ers and tomorrow for the Farzy Show. See you later.